Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is D back with High Off Blue Hour, and I've got another Kling AI video for you guys. And this time we're going to focus in on the motion brush. And I've got 5 images that I've already kind of did some motion brush work with, and we're going to take a look at kind of what those results were like, and maybe how did I get those results, and where did I go wrong, and some of those things. But what the motion brush is, it basically allows you to, as it says here, control the movement of objects. And this is, where the motion brush is located over here on the left hand side, right below the area where you can text prompt. And let's to really kind of like, if you don't know about the motion brush, you'll understand once we kind of look at some images. So the very first image that I ever actually used the motion brush with was this one right here. And in the edit, I'll actually put up the original image, but this right here. And so this is, I'm not gonna play the actual video just yet, but this is an actual photograph from a 2018 movie called Mandy. This is a Nicolas Cage movie. I'm not going to go into the plot, but if you're into horror or things that are kind of similar to horror, you'll probably like Mandy, or there's a good chance you'll like Mandy. I'll put it like that. But Mandy falls within that category. But this is a screenshot from that movie, and this is a biker gang, basically almost a biker gang from hell, not literally, but pretty much, they're out to do some nefarious deeds, and they appear in a portion of the movie. And so this is them, and I've always liked this shot. I like the way it looks, just the color, the lighting. It's very ominous, very moody, and I like that kind of thing. I said, let me add some motion to this. Let's see what the motion brush could potentially do to this image. So I brought the image in as usual, dropped it into this box here. We're in the image to video prompting area, and then I actually did some text prompting. It says that it's optional. I like to always add text prompting. I'm still not sure how much of it impacts things, but I'd like to do it because I feel like the more you do, the more you can get out of your generation. So I put cinematic shot of the bikers slowly riding down the dark road side by side, illuminated by red backlighting. They are breathing heavily, very high quality, smooth camera, dark and moody style with vibrant red. So, and just so you know, this is all in standard mode. All of these generations we're about to look at are in standard mode. So let's go into the motion brush area. You just click on it, and this is going to show basically what I did. So this is the motion brush area. You have your motion brushes, you can change the sizes, and then what you do is you have different areas that can be separated by the different colors that they have, and each area also has a path track that goes along with it, and you can only get one path track per area. And so what I did is I just took area 1, and I had the green brush, and I just covered all 4 bikers and their bikes, and then clicked on track 1 for path and just drew one singular path going in the direction that I wanted to go in, the general direction. Now another way I could have potentially did it is each biker have its own individual area and its own individual tracking path going in a similar direction, or if I wanted them all to go in kind of slightly different directions, draw the paths in different directions. But I wanted the bikers to stay as a unit and go in the same direction, keep it simple, so that's what I did. And then let me also point out as well, even though I didn't use it, let me point this out. Even though I didn't use it, you have add static area down here. For this particular picture, I didn't use it, but if I were to use it, what it's for is if you have areas that you for sure just don't want any motion on those, you click on this static area, and what I'll do, let me raise the size of the brush so that it can kind of see it better. And this is what it kind of looks like, and you just add static area to the areas that you don't want to have any movement. or to the areas that you want to make sure don't have any movement. Sometimes you don't have to use the static area and the area won't move regardless. But so yeah, I didn't do that here though, but that is there in case one wants to use it. And all right, so let's take a look at what this actually looks like. And I'm probably going to be playing the actual downloaded versions, because as I'm running OBS at the same time as doing this, like, things are lagging a little bit in terms of how quick things are moving. So you might be looking at the downloaded versions right now, not necessarily the version that is playing within the browser on Kling's website, if you understand what I'm saying. But it's still pretty much same resolution and all that type of stuff. But it is an interesting look. Like, it's an interesting, like, I actually like the results just because it's just interesting just to see the picture start kind of moving like that. Now, it obviously doesn't look super realistic just because look at the details. Like, there's zero body movement at all from like the bikers themselves, and the wheels of the bikes. Like, you can see a little bit of turning in some of the parts of the wheels, but for the most part the wheels on the bikes don't even seem to be truly turning. So there's this very kind of stiff video game like look to it, but it also has the nice lighting. There's still elements of it where the photograph, the original photograph, is still there and is still kind of shining through. So I wasn't mad at this result at all, really, to be honest. So that was that. And the interesting thing about that one, I do want to point out, is because that is a photograph. This is a photograph. All the images that on this video and the last video that I did, all the images were Midjourney images. This one is a actual photograph. So it's like, you know, there may be some creative things you can do with legitimate real photographs, even photographs from your own kind of life or whatever, in terms of creating motion within a photograph. So I thought that was interesting. But the rest of these that we're going to look at, admittedly, are going to be Midjourney images. So moving on, the next image we'll take a look at, we're going to look at this image right here. This is let me pause it before it plays. Now this image, this is just a Reaper character, a Reaper-like character that generated in Midjourney, and he's just, you know, a skeletal face type Reaper character that's supposed to be wearing aviator shades, has a trident, has a, you know, cloak, hood, cape, all that type of stuff. And yeah, just a kind of rocky background, just non-distinct background. And so the prompt for this, I actually had to do 3 different go-throughs using the motion brush with this one, because I was getting very varying results. Now, the actual text prompt that I used, once I put the picture into the image and prompt box here, the actual text prompt that I used was: the Reaper character slowly walks across the scene, his garb lightly blowing in the wind, his head, shoulders, arms, and legs moving as he slowly walks. Now, I emphasize those things because I did not want him to just glide across the screen, because, you know, that's one of the things I was wondering about with the motion brush, is how is it gonna create a walking motion. In prompting, the optional text prompting, you know, do I need to really emphasize that I want this character to walk and not just glide across the ground? You know, I want to see the limbs moving to some degree, the shoulders shifting and things like that. So this is all experimentation. So, and then I said smooth dolly tracking shot, very high quality, cinematic and moody horror fantasy movie. All the other settings stayed about the same. And then the actual motion brush path, let's look at that. And so again, just very simple, just highlighted the whole character and then drew the general direction that I wanted that character to move in. Didn't do any static area stuff once again. So let's take a look at what that result looked like. And once again, this might buffer a little bit. So if it is buffering too much, what you're going to be looking at are going to be the downloaded versions of these generations so that they'll be running smoother than what I'm looking at right now as I record this. But yeah, so what we get here is a shot where it's kind of like, is the character moving or is the camera moving? You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. It looks more like the camera is kind of moving a little bit like past the character. Like there is a bit of a parallax thing going on where you don't know what's in motion and what isn't. Now, technically, this isn't like there is something I like about this shot, and there is something cinematic about it. The character looks, I got to keep in mind this is standard mode, so there's a lot of details that in professional mode I'm pretty sure would look a lot sharper and just look better overall, you know. So there is some kind of low resolution type stuff going on here, but in general I like the kind of the overall look of what's going on. But obviously you don't get that actual walking motion. Like none of the limbs are really moving at all, and again, it's not clear if the character is supposed to be moving in this shot or if the camera is, or does it even matter, because it, you know, technically this does honor the motion, what the motion brush said, because the motion brush just basically generally said, let's look at it again, it just said take this guy and move him in this direction. That's basically what this is saying. And this honors that. But I wasn't really totally happy with this one, so I said let's go for another go through. So I did it again with this same image. So this second one, let's bring it up here. This is it right here. And so let me pause it. And I'm pretty sure I kept all the text prompting stuff the same on this go through. Yeah, all the text prompts stayed the same. I think I bumped up, the creativity relevance balance. I bumped that over to the right up to 0.7 a little bit for some reason. I guess I just wanted to see what would happen potentially. Also, I didn't talk about the negative prompting for this one. This was the negative prompt for all of these: distortion, disfigurement, blur, noise, grain, low quality. All of that was in the negative prompt box. So once again, let's press play. Now, the thing about this one is that stylistically there is something that I like about it, just because it's cinematic in a way. Just there is something very movie like about the way this looks like overall, but the actual details are horrible. There is a lot of warping and just changing over time that happens with this. Like at the very beginning of the clip, the face is a little bit more, is at least somewhat skeletal. You have some iteration of aviator glasses on the eyes, I guess, and then the trident actually looks good. Like I like the way this trident looks, and you've got all the other overall details that you want: the cloak, the hood, all that type of stuff. Just the garb, hands, arms, all that stuff looks fine, and then the background is fine. But over the course, you see it'll start to warp. The face warps and turns from a skeletal face that has aviator shades on to a more human-like face that has almost like war paint around the eyes and things like that. And also the trident starts to warp, starts to kind of droop a little bit and look almost like it's made out of fabric as opposed to, you know, steel or whatever the case may be. So I just wasn't like the actual, and also just overall the character actually moves in the complete opposite direction of what the motion brush said. Motion brush pretty much told the character to move over here to the left side of the screen, and this generation takes the character and the character literally turns and says, nah, I'm going over here to the right side. And so yeah, so said let's do it a third time. So I went for a third generation of this photo, and this one ended up being the one that I'm like, okay, this is, of the three, this is the best one. Now it's very similar to, well, first let's go over here and look at the actual text prompt, because what I did do after the debacle of that second generation, with this third one, I added something to the text prompt. I added the skeleton Reaper character wearing aviator shades, slowly walks across, yada 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 yada. pinpointed the skeleton thing to make sure, now keep the face skeletal. I want the face to be like that of a skeleton. Don't warp it into a man's face or a live man's face over time or anything like that. So slight change to the prompt, to the text prompt. And then the path drawn, let's look at the motion brush. Once again, just kept the same general path. Like, there wasn't really any need to make a big change to that. So I know this video is about the motion brush, but like this particular picture, there wasn't a lot of motion brush variation going on. Just did it one time and kept it the same. And let's press play and look at same thing as before. You might be looking at, you're probably going to be looking at the downloaded versions right now, since what I'm looking at on my screen as I record this is lagging quite a bit. But this ended up being what I feel is the best version of all three, because the character is moving in the direction that I wanted him to move, but also there's a lot more noticeable movement in the limbs, at least to me. The left leg clearly is moving a little bit, indicating taking a step. There's movement in the shoulders, the arms. You get the garb blowing in the wind, all of that, and the character, like I said, is going in the direction that I wanted him to go. And it feels like the character himself is moving, not necessarily just the camera is moving. A lot of the things are subtle, but they all work together to create an obvious look of the character is taking steps and moving down this kind of rocky slope. So that is that one. And so let's move on to the next one, which is this one right here, this image. So this image, this was basically just and I had a few just variations of this that I did in Midjourney. I created the initial generation, then I zoomed out a little bit because I wanted the car to have kind of more room to move forward if I was going to use the motion brush on it. So this is a supercar kind of on this Victorian style street with kind of 1950s style street lamps. At least that's what I asked for when I originally prompted this. And yeah, so the text prompt for this is just the supercar slowly drives down the Victorian style city street. So that's very simple. And then let's go look at the motion brush path. So this is the motion brush path area, and there we go. So very similar to the other generations. It's only one character, the car, and it's moving in one very simple direction, kind of straight forward, eventually off the frame, I suppose. But so what I did, just to reiterate how the motion brush works, picked my area, the green, highlighted the car with the motion brush, then go over and click track 1 for the matching path, and you come down here and just literally draw with your cursor the path that you want your subject to take. And so just drew a little arrow going kind of down and forward, following the path of the road that the car is on, right? And static area, I actually did do some static area stuff here, just along the bottom here. You can kind of, let me highlight the static area brush just for effect here, but you see this kind of dark grayish kind of shadow that's going on down here towards the bottom. That's just stuff that I drew with the static area brush, just to kind of indicate that like I didn't want any movement. And to be honest, there was an area where down here where it says motion brush user guide, I clicked that, and one of the tips that it said regarding the static area brush is to run it along the bottom of the image if you don't want any motion. So, or some, that's not what it said verbatim, but something like that, because I ran the static area brush along the bottom here for that reason. The motion brush user guide kind of indicated that was a good thing to do. So that's what I did. I don't know if it was the best thing in this case or not, but that's what I did. That's what the motion brush area for this looks like. Let's press play and see what we got. And so, this is, I like the idea of this, but you see obvious issues with that front end of the vehicle in terms of like warping, and like you see that like there's just, you see obvious issues with it, but however, there are things just from a composition perspective that I really like about this image. Stylistically, I really like it, just the glowing lights. It's getting towards blue hour, so you know, obviously I got a thing for blue hour, and you know, you've got that, just the city, like this kind of, it's Victorian, this Victorian style, kind of gothic style, but a little bit modern as well. And you see it in the background. There's a depth to it. You see it in the background. You see it in the foreground. You've got the water. It's actually from a style perspective, I really like it, but from the details, you've got issues, particularly with that front end of the car, as well as the wheels aren't really turning a lot. Yeah, you don't really see any turning in the wheels. I do think it's interesting that even though I didn't indicate anything about it, there's motion in the clouds in the background, which I think is, you know, I don't have any issue with it, but I think it's interesting that it kind of just went ahead and put that there. But I mean, it makes sense though. Like, it's not, it makes sense though. So I was kind of happy with that. I mean, there's obviously, and the thing about it is there's probably also, like, if you go back into the motion brush area, you know, there's also kind of mistakes. Maybe when you use the motion brush, how precise do you have to be? You know, I haven't read the motion brush user guide to, like, really in depth. I don't know if they talk about it, but, like, you know, maybe you have to be super precise, because I do think there's times where I was a little messy with selecting my subject, and maybe had also accidentally, like, maybe didn't just select the car, but selected a piece of the street as well, and selected kind of a piece of the bridge railing behind the car. And how much of that plays into the final generation with the motion brush, or is the AI able to kind of understand that, no, this person just wants this car, they don't also want the piece of the cement below the car and the piece of the bridge railing behind the car, like, because, you know, is the AI able to discern that, or do you have to be super precise with how you select your subjects with the motion brush? So if it's the case that you have to be super precise, that could explain some of the artifacts and things and just the warping that you might get, or at least that I got with this car here. But so that's the car. Take from that what you will. I do realize some of, if not all of the things I'm showing have imperfections in them. So this is really just to kind of show you the results that I got with these initial uses of the motion brush. So let's go ahead and look at, I'm actually going to save the best, or what I think to be the best result for last. So I'm not going to go to that one yet. I'm going to go to this next one where we just have a jogger running across a city street. And so I'm not going to play it just yet. Let me pause it, bring it back. So this is just a lady in a just blue t-shirt and blue leggings or whatever, running across the city street. You've got pedestrians and cars in the background. It looks like it might have been a little rainy out. The ground looks a little kind of shiny and whatnot. So put that into the box. The prompt: the female athlete slowly jogs across the city street, her arms and legs moving with the grace and posture of a track athlete. Stable, steady, and smooth camera. Okay, so this is actually one where I used multiple paths. This is actually the only one, the first and only one where I drew multiple paths with the motion brush. So let's take a look at those paths. All right, so here we go. So this obviously looks like a mess, but you'll see if it kind of works out or not. So what I did here, area 1, track 1 is all for our jogger. She's the main character, so we highlighted her with our area 1 brush in green. Then we clicked track 1 to draw our path for her, which is just straightforward. She's just running across the street, the intersection, whatever it may be. So very simple. And then for area 2, track 2, we highlighted this car right here in the background, and it's kind of sitting at the crosswalk, it looks like, or at a crosswalk. And So that's area 2, track 2, all in purple. So we highlighted that and then drew the path for track 2, drew the path for this vehicle to just kind of continue basically going forward to the most part. And then for area 3, track 3, I actually highlighted 2 cars. I highlighted with the track area 3 brush, highlighted this taxi cab sitting right here, and highlighted this, what I thought was a taxi cab as well, sitting up here. And then for the track 3, for the area 3 path, just drew an arrow or just drew a line in the direction of basically going forward, generally up the street forward in the direction that the cars are already headed. All right. And then added in a static area actually. And that's what all of these kind of grayish blob, like blacked out type little areas are. It looks very random and messy. Part of it was because I wasn't sure how much of it was necessary, you know what I mean? So I just ran a little bit along the bottom here. I mean, obviously you don't want the ground shifting beneath her feet or anything like that, so keeping the ground stable. I assume you want the buildings to, for the most part, stay still, so made sure to try to run some static area brush strokes over the building. And then I just, for this side of this building, I just kind of did this loop-de-loop instead of trying to fill out the whole building area, because it's like, what are the odds that I add the brush, static brush, to kind of the outside edges of the building, but they make the center of the building warp and move? I just didn't think they would do that necessarily. In retrospect, maybe I should have added more static area stuff here, but anyways. And also just, I knew that I wanted people on the street and cars on the street to kind of be able to move freely in the background, so I tried to keep static area brush strokes away from the actual street, cars, and people. All right, so that's what we got. Three areas for movement paths and some static area stuff. So let's see what this ended up looking like. Press play. And once again, you might be looking at the downloaded versions of this video. So obviously kind of warping things going on, particularly with the jogger's face, with her kind of the front of her face. And but there are some good things going on, some promising things going on here as well, because of the accuracy that some things were represented. For example, the movement of the direction of the things that I selected, they followed the direction of the motion brush strokes. This car is moving forward kind of across the crosswalk as originally directed, and then the 2 taxis in the background are definitely moving in the directions that they were directed to go. Now, also though, to be honest, those vehicles were potentially going to move in those directions anyways, even without the motion brush, because those are the directions they were already facing in the still photo. And if I was just going to do a basic image to prompt without using the motion brush, I would guess that that's the direction those vehicles were already going to move in. Now, there always is the chance they were going to move backwards in some weird way, because sometimes that will happen, but no. So it's kind of interesting, and maybe I should have tried to make one of the cars turn or something, or do a U-turn or something like that to really test out the motion brush. But so that is that generation with that. Again, some things that didn't turn out so well, and there are some things that did turn out well. The running motion and everything is like, relatively legit. Like, this is, considering what's happening and what this is all resulting from, it is interesting, but it's not, obviously not anything that's just, this isn't replacing a real video, basically, in terms of the quality. Although, again, this is just standard mode, but you get the idea. We're just kind of experimenting and seeing what some of this produces. So that was that. All right, so now the final one. I said I was going to save what I thought was the best one for last, and that is this one right here. Let me not let it play just yet. So the original picture for this is the image, just a tiger on a bridge, and put this in the box. And the text prompt that I used for this was, "The majestic tiger slowly walks across the bridge." So, you know, real simple. Let's look at the path that we drew with the motion brush. So this is, again, a very simple path, but you also see I did try to do some things with the static area, and I also feel like some of the static area type stuff might have not been the best choice, but you'll see. But so motion brush wise, I just selected our tiger with area 1 brush, and then for the path, click on track 1 and then just drew a line. Again, just generally going forward, generally like showing where the tiger's body should move as this video progresses, because he's just supposed to just continue walking down this bridge. I used the static area brush on just kind of general kind of things in the background. I used it on some of this just general area over here in the back because I didn't want this to move. These this kind of city or village town, whatever, that's kind of sitting on these cliffs coming out of the water, put general motion brush strokes over that, just because, you know, yeah, that should stay stationary. That's the whole city, you know what I mean? And then put some static area motion brush down here towards the bottom, just again kind of not really knowing what the hell I'm doing, and so that's why I put that there. But so that's that. Let's see what it actually looks like. All right, let's press play. Now the reason I like this is I like the motion of the tiger. Like, the tiger moves with a kind of smoothness that lets you know there's lots of footage of tigers out there on the internet, because this looks pretty smooth. Now there's obviously some, like, it doesn't look exactly like the image, because for one, the tiger's eyes pretty much stop glowing right away once it starts to move. And that's one thing that I will note, that I have noticed with image to video prompting, is that oftentimes you'll notice the very split second it goes from image to video. Like, you can tell, okay, this is the base of the video is the still photo, and then but the minute it starts to move, because the tiger in the original Midjourney image has glowing eyes, like these glowing amber eyes. And so, but the minute the motion starts to happening, the amber eyes disappear. It's like so it's kind of like, you see how it just, now what I really would have liked is for the tiger to keep its glowing amber eyes even once the motion started. Now, maybe that's my fault, because I didn't prompt in this text prompt over here. Even though the Midjourney image that I prompted earlier has the glowing amber eyes in it, maybe I should have text prompted into the Kling AI box that, you know, make sure the tiger has glowing amber eyes. You know, maybe I should have done that instead of just assuming if the eyes are glowing in the picture, the eyes will be glowing in the final video once it starts moving. I thought that would have been easily picked up by Kling's AI, but it didn't. So that's kind of one of the major things that is an issue with this video, is that it didn't keep its glowing eyes. In fact, the way it gets kind of dark up here, almost as if there's like a shadow, if it would have had its glowing eyes in this scenario, that would have been an even more kind of sinister, like dynamic look, for it to have its kind of glowing eyes as it goes into the shadows a little bit. Something else that's awkward about this video is that the background is too still. You know what I mean? Like, it's too, and you know, even though there is rain falling, but like the actual, like the bridge itself isn't swaying or moving at all. I think let's see here. Yeah, some of the waterfall stuff is moving actually in the background, but like the water, actually there is, you got some movement in the water, but the bridge itself isn't moving. There isn't any movement in the city seems too still, even though I said I wanted it to be still by using the static area brush. There's also something bizarrely lifeless about it. Like, it looks, again, just like the tiger is kind of crawling out of a picture, which I guess is kind of what it is doing technically. So it is what it is, but I like the look of the tiger though. I thought the motion was really well done, so that's kind of why I looked at this as perhaps the best of the bunch. In retrospect, it might not actually be, because I do really like the car one. Yeah, I thought the car one, and actually the Mandy picture from the very beginning might actually still be the best of the bunch, just because that stays kind of clean throughout, keeps the same moody lighting, all of that type of stuff. So I don't know, but anyway, so this was my little experimentation with the motion brush in Kling AI. I do think it's an interesting tool. It's definitely a notch in Kling AI's belt, as in another reason why you might want to use Kling AI. Like it's definitely some uses for this. It's one of those things where you could think of some interesting things you can do with it. You can probably actually stumble upon, just through experimentation, some interesting things to do with it. And I do like its responsiveness in terms of direction. There were a few miscues, a few moments where it's not giving you exactly what you want, but for the most part, you know, maybe because I kept it simple, for the most part it didn't lie to me, or it wasn't, you know, it kept its word for the most part about what it was going to do based on what I told it to do. So yeah, so that's the motion brush for Kling AI. Do with it what you will. I recommend, you know, messing around with it. So far, Kling AI is good in my book, in terms of, like, do I recommend people use it? Yeah, if you want to do image to video type stuff and all that type of stuff, I recommend you use it. So that's the video, you guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.